of Darkseer Visage and saying to myself, this is a lineup that does have early game aggression potential. And to try to deter that, Alliance are going to go ahead and pick themselves up a Brewmaster, which is a great hero for control. Definitely allows you to take fights that normally during like the early mid game, I would say that Nature's Prophet Tree could maybe take engagements, but with a Brewmaster, it definitely makes it a lot easier.
We saw S4 play the Brewmaster earlier in the competition. He was at the second last day or the latest last day, and he owned with Brewmaster. Like he's so on point with them spells.
I actually think it was against Fnatic, and we were saying it was against their famous tiny Wisp combo, and we're saying, oh man, that Tiny's gonna get controlled, but at the end, I think it was No-Tail's Wisp that pulled it through with all the healing. And kind of transitioning that into my prediction.
They actually had Kotl as well. And
yes,
using
But I think that is one of my concerns here for Alliance. Brewmaster is not a hero that does a lot of damage. Same thing with Treant Protector, so I feel like drafting the rest of the 2 hero for Alliance, they need to pick up hero that can punch hard, deal damage in big bursts. And it looks like we're going to see EG's Tinker, which RTZ plays it extremely well. It's one of their heroes that they took down Vici Gaming with in the summit, so we'll see exactly how Tinker is played, but normally he just does the normal thing, like stack Ancients, get your fast BOTs, get a Blink Dagger, get a Dagon, eventually a Hex. So I feel like a very late game oriented solo mid coming out from RTZ, which is to no surprise.
We actually saw Evil Genius pick a similar lineup where they picked Bounty Hunter as well, and Fear was playing the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
Oh, this was a while back.
A while back when Fear was actually still playing.
Yeah.
I think this might come out.
Yeah.
Well, I want to mention 2 things. First, Tinker is, like Lumi said, he's played statically. Like, he's never really done anything but farm for bots, farm for Blink Dagger, and then just continually push lanes, come to fights whenever you're needed. You're going to have Visage Birds to be able to teleport onto, which is also really nice. That just makes it so, under normal circumstances, a team like EG, if they didn't have Visage, they're looking at maybe 3 or 4 heroes trying to make room for RTZ to farm. And sure, he can help every once in a while, but usually you want to get like those 2 or 3 items up, right? And we are going to see a Silencer come out from Alliance, and we'll talk about that in a second. But for EG, this is going to work, I think, a lot better than normal Tinker strategies, just because that hero is more seen as controlling lanes and making sure that you can like always get something. But being able to come to fights as well is something that's going to be difficult for Alliance to deal with, because they're fighting right now with a Silencer global ulti, a Brewmaster ulti, which are fairly long cooldowns, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I just want to give James a shout out, because this morning he was talking to EGM.
No,
he was talking to EGM, right?
Yeah.
And he said he had some advice, and EGM came over to where we were sitting, and he's like, yeah, what's up? And James goes, pick Silencer. And that's all he said. He goes, I'm out of advice, like that's it. So
James has been playing Silencer for the last like week straight.
Yeah.
Every day.
It's a good hero, man.
It completely interrupts a whole team fight. Like these heroes like Darkseer and Tinker, they rely on like continually casting spells in team fights, whereas Silencer just stops everything.
My big concern with picks like this is that you're picking 2 heroes who have ultis that are pretty lengthy. Now, if you're taking really big engagements off of those, then it's okay. But if you, say, drop a global silence to save a hero who's going to die, and you're not really getting anything out of it other than saving that hero, I would almost say that those types of ultis would not even be worth it, because EG can fight at any time.
Yeah, but then when you look at EG, they can't really push at the moment. They don't have like Visage Birds, okay, but they don't really have much else. So even if they do team fight every 2 minutes, they still can't push off it afterwards.
Yeah, you could be right. You could be right. We'll see.
I think especially against Treant Protector's Living Armor, I stand more on Shane's point. There was something you said, if you kill all of Alliance, you don't really need anything else. You have your creeps, they'll push for you. So there's that. But yeah, the point that Andy brought up is especially huge in the fact that, sure, EG has low cooldown ultimates. They could go ganking all day long. At the same time, if Alliance expend their 2 ultimates, I'm talking about Primal Split as well as Global Silence, and you don't win a team fight and get a tier 1 tower or tier 2 tower out of that, I don't think those ultimates are worth it. So I feel like Alliance has a much harder to execute lineup compared to what EG does. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think there's very little room for error for Alliance.
We do have to see the last picks, though. Everything can change pretty drastically, especially in this patch.
I mean, it could be a support Tinker. Cloud9 did that, and they lost in like 15 minutes, but you know, it could be a support Tinker.
I don't remember that one working out too well. So
look, it had 100% win in scrim, is what I've heard.
So they picked Rubik to counter all the ultimates.
I mean, heck, even just stealing things like living armor can be really nice if you're on the side of EG, because Alliance don't have any ways of really getting through the spell, and their push isn't really that good either. Like we talked about, EG's lane pushing might be okay, but when they get to towers, they're a little bit lackluster in terms of how much damage they can actually deal. But Alliance, they can't really do much until the Nature's Prophet starts to get items.
I was actually worried for AG because they didn't have any like initial stun to set up the arrow.
Yeah.
And
Well, Grape Shield's not bad. The lift is
A lift is a guarantee, though. That's what he's saying.
The thing is, I brought up the Rubik point earlier. It's not being picked up here for a
it's a
Yeah.
oh shit.
Farming silencers are really scary. I just
That
want to
Agi
point
gain.
that out.
That Agi gain.
3 Agi gain. He has the highest Agi gain of any hero in the game. Not agility-based hero.
And he doesn't.
Has higher agility gain than some agility heroes.
Okay, I'm gonna just say that before anybody jumps on this Agi hype train.
It's
Agi
sick,
gain
dude.
is not really that good. Like you don't get like armor is just.
Dude,
it's
the
okay.
attack speed, bro.
Okay.
And base armor.
Lumi doesn't know anything.
Isn't it like every 7 agility is an armor?
Okay,
or something like
all right.
Yeah.
If you're a silencer player, Andy, and I could tell you, you could have a 3 Agi gain or 3 strength gain. Which one would you pick?
I love attack speed, dude.
Yeah. They can't keep
And
it
he's doing it wrong. And he's just totally doing
No,
it wrong.
I know what you're trying to get at. I think the hero is starting to come a little bit more into the limelight, and it kind of is due to this patch as well. There's a lot of experimentation going on in terms of what teams are willing to try, just because people are getting better at Dota all the time, especially captain-wise. So you just get these games where like, yeah, we're going to run an offlane Void, we're going to run a farming silencer, man, it's fine.
I saw Bambo do offlane Void like 3 years ago. You remember that? Bambo did it?
It was a while ago.
Yeah, I don't think it went well, but he did it.
I mean, a lot of things haven't gone well, but that's why you try them, right?
Yeah.
To see if they work and see if they don't.
In
But-
terms of
PPD?
I see engagement. Ake does have his 300 base movement speed. Not sure whether he actually saw that ward being dropped down. Probably not. And they'll back off for now. This is a fairly standard move. If you're playing against a Chen, do an early invade in their jungle. Make sure that you block as many camps as you possibly can. And they're picking that high-level camp that they want to block out.
19 gold in the bank.
Alright, so they have to know the camps are blocked now, yeah.
Yeah. It's still kind of annoying, though.
If you're
The thing is, Alliance usually play quite greedy. Did they start with sentries?
No, Aki does not sentries.
Okay, yeah, that's really bad. That's actually, like, really bad.
Yeah, he's going for boots first.
I mean, the thing is, that is somewhat expected, right? When you play support tree, the trend nowadays is to get boots first on your tree so you can harass.
Just run at them.
Right, but as a downside, that means you're short either a smoke or a sentry. In this case,
he pulled them in through the courier.
Okay, yeah,
oh,
there
he
we go.
saved gold and made sure that he got the sentry. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, Ake just next level.
The question is, do they know that he awarded the other one? I mean, as long as he has his 2 large camps, I think he's fine. So even if 1 or 2 are blocked, it's not that big of a deal. But if he can get 2 large creeps, then he'll be more than okay. He's going to miss a second sentry, so the other camp is actually going to be blocked for now. But shouldn't be too much.
And the small camp as well. So
Yeah.
We're gonna see a little bit of rotation to the mid lane here. PDD with that double damage. Did I just call him PDD?
You said that on the
You
intro
said
as
it,
well.
yeah, you said it when you introduced
And he
it.
actually smiled.
He's really gangster, so
What does DD have anything to do with being gangster?
Yeah.
I don't know.
isn't that some rapper's name?
Who?
PDD.
No.
P.
I
Diddy?
really don't think it
PDD.
is.
That's the guy.
He's not a rapper.
He's well.
Hip hop. Kind of.
Same difference.
All right, whatever. We're getting sidetracked. So, taking a look at the lanes right now, seems to be the 1v1 mid S4 versus Arteezy. It's Brewmaster taking on Tinker. And in this matchup, I think Brew's actually going to be fine. As a melee hero, he's actually very difficult to harass out of lane. Very high base armor. Put 1 point into your passive, the auto attacks can miss. You have extremely good strength gain on top of that. And you can push the wave quite nicely, so shouldn't be too big of a deal for Alliance.
Arteezy's item build is super greed.
Yeah. I mean,
He actually only saved 50 gold.
that's Arteezy, man.
Yeah.
Greedy.
Takes balls.
I can get behind that. I can get behind the greed. And then the off lane, we're gonna have Admiral Bulldog trying to find what he can. He's level 2 right now. He's got boots. He's gonna try to snipe the Centaur EXP, but PPD's like, get the hell out of here. I'll let you go up to the high ground if you come over here.
Perhaps we're gonna see the first successful gank of the game here. Ake with that tomato creep on the right side. He does have the smoke. high priority gank target is obviously RTZ on the mid lane, but if you could pick up a Darkseer first blood, that would be nice. But speaking of that Darkseer, he's already in his own jungle, farming away.
There's no reason not to be. Putting yourself bottom, there is danger that you could die. I think once you actually get to level 2 or 3, you should be fine. But if you can just stack camps and continually get EXP that way, there's not really much of a... Like, a Silencer's not going to push your tier 1, basically, is what it boils down to. So he doesn't really have to worry about prioritizing that tower, and he'll just flat out get more out of the woods.
Admiral Bulldog's item build here, he's gone for 4 tangos, and he's not really trading harass. What did he think he could have been in a 1v1 lane? What's the logic behind the 4 tangos?
Well, you just buy tangos no matter what, man.
But I'm thinking, like, he's never going to trade hits Nature's Prophet. He's just going to drag the creep wave to the tower. I used to see him get a... He used to always get a really Basilius first. I don't know.
Well, I guess it's kind of a game-to-game basis. Maybe they weren't entirely sure if EG planned on going aggressive or something like that. They have tri-lane Darkseer before and done crazy stuff like that. So just being better safe than sorry. Kind of the same way Ake saved his money for sentries, just to say, okay, well, they probably will ward our camps, but if I don't spend money on sentries and then they don't sentry, I feel better about it. So it could just be one of those if this happens statements.
Yeah, there's also walking into Visage and Rubik. And as you're trading right hits with Mirana, you don't really want to be in that position. So, I mean, I think Admiral Bulldog is also going to be in a very similar position where he's going to start jungling. And it looks like he's actually going to go for a Trex first, most likely with that Robo Magi. So a little bit of deviation from the standard phase boots, Ring of Besatas kind of play. I wonder what that's kind of about. Any thoughts on that, Andy?
I think treads are a bit more farmy, actually, because phase boots usually you get during the early game. Nature's Prophet animation is really nice, and his base attack time isn't that bad either. So you get a really good amount of damage. You can chase quite well with phase, and it more leads to early game fighting potential. Maybe he just wants to play it a little bit more passively, abuse tree armor, and just keep the towers alive, maybe as long as they can. Go to late game with a Silencer and a Prophet and go from there.
Yeah, there's also the argument that you want the strength that you get from the strength treads. A lot of nukes coming out from Mirana, as well as Visage, as well as Tinker, so having that extra HP might make all the difference. It looks like we're going to see that smoke gang coming on the mid lane. RTZ still, bottle crowing away. Could be in trouble. It looks like they're going to swing around instead.
With 3 points of March of the Machines, it's very difficult to gank Tinker.
Oh, you might die for it.
Yeah, you will probably die.
I think this is another reason why Universe decided to just stay in his woods, but he's actually going to TP to the tier 2. This could be a really next level. Oh, wow. They say, okay, he's not coming, and then as soon as he TPs to the tower, they realize, and they're like, oh, if we just waited like 5 more seconds, maybe. But I even think with his Satyr, there wasn't really a chance to get a kill there. Universe even surges forward and pulls the creeps off the tower. That's how confident he is that this lane has no kill potential on him at all.
Yeah, he's also getting some very key, crucial experience, but tier 1's going to go down regardless, and last hit does go to Admiral Bulldog, which is a goal that he desperately needs. That means he can upgrade his power treads now, and probably just going to go back up top.
It really has been a while since I've seen a Prophet build treads.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to think when the last time I've actually seen that is.
It could be because of the Tinker burst damage. He's worried about getting nuked down fights.
Well, it depends on how much Alliance are really looking to contribute in terms of fights too. Like, do they want to fight? Because with a Chen and a Prophet, you could say, sure, they want to push towers, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to take straight-up team fights against what EG has. So I think having treads kind of lends itself more to a late-game style.
Okay.
And when you have heroes like Brewmaster on your team as well, all of Alliance's heroes, I would say, are fairly good at defending and holding positions on the map. Like even a Silencer, for example, you start putting a couple of extra points in a Curse, and you can just drain people's mana and make it impossible for them to have any presence anymore because they just can't use spells. So delaying the game may be what Alliance is looking for. Yep.
What items do you think Silencer will go? Aghanims?
I've seen a lot of Aghanims rushing. I'm kind of torn about that rushing item in particular, just because you're putting everything on the ult, right? And the problem that I have with that is you're spending 4,200 gold and your first 4,200 gold to do it, and you're saying if we don't get something really big out of these ults, then the item really doesn't do a whole lot for me.
Yeah. Do you think he might go Mechanism instead of Chen and let Aki just...
He could go something like Force Staff. He could go some other kind of early game type of item. I even think that things like Rod of Atos are okay in this game, because on EG you have maybe one BKB carrier. Universe, if he really wants to buy BKB, could get one as well. So like Mace and Universe, maybe the only two. I suppose RTZ could, but you won't be seeing him get that item until it's very late in the game. He might just
though,
buy a Yule's instead, you know, because it's a cheaper dispel for the BKB.
I'm actually thinking if he's not going for a quick Midas, which looks like he's not because he's upgraded his power threats, he's either going to go Aghanims or Necrobook. I feel like it really gives them that push as well as that strong team fight they're looking for, which I guess it's not really going to come till S4 gets his Blink Dagger. I've seen Alliance do a lot of smoke gangs, but none of this are very fruitful, and right now he's wasting a ton of time.
Well, it depends. The tower is dead, bottom lane, so I don't know if necessarily it's a huge time waste, and we saw an Invis there, but looks like S4 didn't want to go for the kill on the solo Rubik, and I definitely respect that, but he could scout out middle lane, see if they can try to apply any pressure to this tower, but against the Tinker, it's just so hard.
Yeah, look at how scary the entire AG team is playing. They definitely know S4 is missing. A very deep ward being dropped by Ake, really like that. Makes the coming ganks, especially when you have a Prophet, a lot easier. And you can snipe Courier going into top lane as well. Universe gonna come on the high ground. He's gonna get clapped. Here comes the Brewmaster ult. He's gonna try to surge himself out of there. Where's the Boulder Badge? There is not. And looks like a little bit of missed micro from S4 will cost him that first blood.
He could have actually Cyclone as well.
Yeah,
like he could have
or
dispelled.
dispelled, yeah.
Yeah, he could have done like 3 different things there, and unfortunately maybe just cold fingers. It is a bit chilly in here today.
Dance it off.
I mean, normally you say if you make a mistake, that's okay, but this mistake is on a 120-second cooldown, so that's going to make Alliance a lot weaker should EG decide to fight or push in the next minute or so.
I honestly think when Brewmaster Ultimate is on cooldown, you just play as greedy as possible. I mean, what else is going to kill you? A Global Silence isn't really that threatening. Loda has decided to go for a Midas, so as soon as they click on him, they're going to be like, oh, he's not going Force Staff, he's not going Aghanims, he just bought a Midas. We have X amount of time before he really starts to become a huge issue for us. And if any team fight happens, there's a high likelihood that he's not going to be involved other than maybe using his ult.
Well, that ult might be used right now because here comes the gank on the bottom lane. Moonlight Shadow used in conjunction with that smoke. They're going to start things off with the lift. Probably follow things up with the arrow. Creeps are in the front line here. But here's the problem, like, the damage of the arrow is nothing. Here comes the living armor, and that gank's over. And this is what I mean, that Rubik is just not an ideal partner with Mirana anymore.
I think in order to make those types of ganks work, you need your Visage to be 6.
Yeah.
So you have other stuns, Soul Assumption, and a way to break the living armor.
That's why they sent them up top. They left them on his own to get 6. So they're like, okay, let's try and get something while we're getting him 6.
Or having the Iron Shell, I guess. That would help too.
Yeah, I don't think Universe really wants to be the one contributing to those ganks though, because even if he can get a kill, I don't think they're going to be allowed to get the tier 1 for it. And in that case, I think his time is better spent just pushing other lanes or farming the woods because he gets more gold out of that.
So, seems like we have a very slow-paced game, 9 minutes, really no kill, no tower really being pushed down aside from that tier 1 on the bottom lane. What do you think a passive game fall favors? Is it the Nature's Prophet, the team fight ultimate of the Silencer and Brewmaster, or is it more of a Tinker late game scenario with the Mirana backup?
It's really hard to say. Just looking at the lineups, I would say probably EG, just because Darkseer's scales actually deceptively well during the late game. Then you have Tinker and Mirana on top of that. But otherwise, I think Alliance still can hold their own. It's really hard to say just flat out who has the better team late game, because you're fighting into a Nature's Prophet. Late game Silencer is still scary. And you have Overgrowth, which is always a guaranteed disable, and you have Panda Split as well. So Alliance's disables can kind of still work in the late game, whereas EG are more of just damage and AoE.
Yeah, it's also quite hard to pick off someone from Alliance, because you have the Chen heal, Treant armor, the Send home. Like if anyone's getting focused on team fights, they just heal them up.
I think the Rubik is actually going to be a pretty big factor here too. If you can steal a really good spell,
like Overgrowth or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you can make it happen, it's going to be huge, but there's a pretty good likelihood that any time a real fight happens, you're going to get globaled, and then you can't actually steal anything useful because all the spells are used at the end of the fight, and most people will not use their best spell as their last spell. So, it's kind of tough.
So why did they pick Rubik into this lineup? What was their...
I think it's just one of those supports that can potentially make plays. And to a certain extent, he slows down pushes, which EG right now, the only way they have to do that outside of Fade Bolt is just by pushing lanes, right? Like you have Ion Shell, you're going to have March of the Machine, Star Storms, and things of that nature. So you want to make sure that the Prophet never really gets to a tower to kill it, and just having a hero who can stop a push, who's a support, is kind of nice.
Yeah, and that's really just the early game, because once Tinker gets his Breach of Travel, then that pushing is really at home. Because TP, March, you're not pushing through that.
What Alliance have actually done is they've warded off like the jungle here, and they also warded the Ancients, trying to stop down that jungle farm from the
Tinker.
Yeah, from the Tinker. The ward of the Ancients just run out there.
Yeah, those steep wards really help also when you like sometimes the enemy team do a Moonlight Shadow, and obviously pro teams nowadays, they all back off from lane. Sometimes you spot out a Darkster that's getting Moonlight Shadow in the jungle, they're like, yeah. Free gank dodge. PPD's gonna spot himself a DD rune and walk it off. Yeah, a very passive game. Breach of Travel check. We're gonna see RTZ not really having a good time in terms of farm. Normally, if you have a very good game with Tinker, you have a 9-minute BOT, 8-minute BOT, but we're closing on 12 to 13. He's gone for the Soul Ring, which is usually a concession to say as we see a mid-game engagement. Here comes the global. The Rap's gonna be there as well. The TP gets canceled. RTZ is gonna get first blooded, and that's the big deal. Talking about the Breach of Travel timing. But at the same time, Alliance need to get more than just a single kill. They need to get like a tier 1 tower. I'm not sure whether they can.
They might be able to. Universe is at half HP.
With the Tinker down, they can't march to the center as well.
Oh, they're going to throw out a Fade Bolt. Not really a whole lot of damage being dealt yet, but there are 10 creeps here. Hawkeye behind the tower, trying to go for Universe. They're going to pop the Moonlight Shadow. Sentry is down as well on the side of EG. And this is taking a while, man.
Yeah, and that's really the issue here with the Alliance draft.
They won't get it done.
Well, the clip is going to be there. I think EG still wants to go for the dive at the very least. The dive not going to be attempted. I mean, when there's a Darkseid surging into 5-man, you know your team doesn't have good lockdown.
Universe has gone for a Maelstrom, or not Universe, Admiral Bulldog, sorry, has gone for a Maelstrom, first item.
Lane push, man. That's what it's about.
Yeah, it's about pushing
them
the
lanes.
towers.
When you're playing against Tinker especially, and Darkseer, who can just go to a lane, cast a spell, and leave, and the lane still gets pushed, you need to make sure that you can consistently keep 1 or 2 of your own lanes pushed out. That way you're never in a situation where you take a fight, and 2 of your lanes pushed in, and you're like, okay, well now we can't do anything.
But do you not think they need like some sort of lockdown, like with a Hex or something like that, or what do you get?
At some point in the game, sure, but Silencer could be the hero to make that item too, and Loda's farming very well. He's the highest net worth right now, but he is going Hex. So I expect if he's going to be getting a Hex, it'll be after he finishes that.
No refresher?
Refresher is pretty darn good, I will say that.
You can have 4 curses.
What is it, like 14 seconds of silence or something like that?
Yeah, something really good.
Yeah. If you're level 16 and you have Ags and Refresher, it's 14 seconds.
It's kind of ridiculous.
I think you would actually almost go out of mana because the Curse of the Silence stacks with the Curse
put 4
from...
of them on it.
Yeah, you can put 4 on at once, so you would just go I would love to see that. I don't think we will, but I would love to see it.
I mean, the Aghanim's almost finished on Loda. If you check his current gold, he's only like 1,000 away. I'm actually quite concerned about the Maelstrom first on the Prophet. I'm a big fan of it. I think early Maelstrom really increased your farm, but where's that hand of money? I think that gives you way more farm. Obviously, you guys talked about the counter push, the ability to push, and all that's good and all, but I just feel like he's just giving up some innate free value there.
I think to an extent, it's not about the value that he's losing in terms of not having a Midas. It's just when he TPs to a lane, you can push it faster. It just makes more time.
He offers much more right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at EG's lineup, you don't want to give anything away to them, more or less. And the same could be said for Alliances too. They're both so good at capitalizing on greed that you just don't want to give an inch.
Oh. RTZ is so cheeky, isn't he?
Is under attack.
Like he knows they have no lockdown at all, so he can just walk around, do whatever he wants.
It could come back to bite Alliance, but I do suspect we're going to be seeing a Hex at some stage in this game from Alliance.
Another smoke from back here. He's really close to that mechanism as well. Like 180 gold.
And Blink Dagger on S4 too, so if they want to start making team fights happen, this is the time. Level 2 split, Hand of God. They don't have Overgrowth, so their tree's going to have to spend some time in the well.
Is EGM saving up for a Blink Dagger?
I would assume so, yeah. The nice thing about double Blink with Panda and having a tree is that you guarantee that you'll be able to cyclone the proper target, because most of the time a double blink initiation is going to be like a guaranteed kill.
Yeah.
And then you can find the secondary target too.
And also if they BKB when they get initiated on by Brewmaster, then 3M blinks in and upgrades. So.
Yeah.
It is getting a little bit concerning for Alliance that they're not really pressuring, for me at least. Like, they're not destroying these tier 1 towers with ease. They're not really team fighting, and at the same time,
I think they were just waiting on the Aghanims though, from the silencer, when they get the Aghanims.
I mean, Aghanim's going to give you the damage. It looks like RTG might be in a little bit of trouble. He gets in snare. He's going to get stomp 1, stomp number 2. The Sprout's going to be there as well. And that's going to be the extra kill. I was just about to commend that. As a Tinker, you want to do what he's doing. You want to farm the enemy jungle, but you also don't want to get caught.
Well, in some way, I think he's playing this way because he wants to give his team something.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with Naga Siren players who go Radiance, that you take so much farm that you become a detriment to the rest of your team because they can't farm anything. So Tinker, I think, especially when played by Arteezy, can kind of become the same thing. Oh, Courier Snipe.
Nice.
Courier Snipe.
With
Did he
his
put a
blink tower.
blink?
That's how we killed the Courier.
He's going full Drow, man. Full Drow Ranger.
You were just talking about taking away from your team as Tinker.
Yeah.
PPD just hit level 6 at 17 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and he's got 800 net worth.
Don't worry about that.
I think in a game of greed, it's not always just about the cores who get the farm. Sometimes it's about what the supports get too. And I think if anything, that EG might be suffering just because of that.
This blink is still blowing my mind from Ammo. I'm like trying to make sense of it. He's going for Hex after this, right? Like if having the
Yeah, blink Hex.
yeah, blink Hex is pretty.
To try and catch out the Tinker. That's the logic, I guess.
I just. Is this a waste of 250 or 200?
No, I don't think it is, because think about it. If you try to TP into gank with just a regular Nature's Prophet teleport, Arteezy's going to see it every time.
And just blink away.
But if you TP in Fog and blink forward in Hex, then the gank can actually happen. And plus you have a tree to follow it, and you have a Brewmaster to follow it. It's not necessarily about...
Mid lane is going to be a blink clap into global. That's going to be yet another kill. Zeiss dead, pretty much. And here comes a blink. There's a cyclone in the air for PPD. PPD is also going to get picked up. Back on the side here, Visage finally do die. And that home crowd advantage for Sweden. Svenska.
They're just finding these picks, man. And even though Split and Global Silence were used there, they still found 2 kills. These supports are pretty low level, so they're going to be up soon. I'm not entirely sure if they can take this tower down or not, but EG is opted to go for side lane pushes here. Bottom lane, Sprout, TP away. So Universe is going to be just fine. But because of that, it gives Alliance free damage on this mid tier 2.
Yeah, and free damage is permanent damage. Obviously, EG does not have that tree protector like Alliance does. Meanwhile, all these split push that Alliance or that EG has been attempting, they're not really going to do too much. All of these tier 1 towers back at 100% health, essentially.
Aki was actually saving the mana on the troll. He could have used Raise Dead, but he didn't have mana boots, so I think he was saving it for the ensnare.
What a player, man. What a player. But I think Lumi brought up a really strong point, is EG really do have to 5-mana tower to kill it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're never going to get an opportunity to chip it down, because you can't chip against Tree. It's just, it doesn't work.
And here's the thing, can you 5-mana against Brewmaster and Global's Silence? I mean, if you have heroes like Lifestealer, Wraith Kings of Carry, as well as Void or something, like heroes that get BKB, I would say, yeah, you can 5-mana.
Nice grab.
Oh, the Regoose.
I think Zai might be in a little bit of trouble here. Those bursts not dropping just yet.
Like doesn't have, or S4 doesn't have ulti at the moment, so.
But it's so hard to kill that Brew. With just treads, 1350 health. They can pop,
as well.
They can pop Hand of God too. Yeah, and Drunken Brawler being pretty awesome.
I think the only way EG's going to kill Brewmaster is through Blink Hex from Tinker, and maybe a Dagon on top of that, which is very far away from that. And I do want to just go back to my point that EG doesn't really have good BKB buyers. And without them, you're just completely going to be food for Overgrowth, for Brewmaster
Get a
Split.
Manta style on Tinker, it's actually not too bad, because you can rearm Manta, and you can get rid of the Global Silence and
That's true, but I mean, that's like 5k, right?
Yeah, but the alternative is buying a BKB or a Yules, and I think, I'm actually not sure. I think Yules might still be the better choice, just because it, I mean, yeah, you get stats from a Manta, but the Yules I think will maybe keep you out of the base a tiny bit longer, and you can still rearm that too. So.
Yeah, okay.
Can you Yules yourself if you're entangled?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of back and forth play, and Admiral Bulldog drops a deep ward in enemy jungle with a TP.
What a ninja.
That's in preparation of that courier snipe. Unfortunately, the courier will fly out now, and TP's on
He
CD.
sees it.
Yeah.
He's gonna see it and be like, no, my timing.
No, here, it's gonna go back.
Yeah,
so,
but
that courier,
his TP
Radiant's
scroll is on
bottom tower
cooldown,
is
so he
under
can't
attack.
he's got
immediately.
a blink, man. Don't worry about it.
Okay. You're the boss.
Oh, he's even gonna buy an item move. Is he actually gonna go now because he bought? He won't lose any money if he goes for this snipe.
All right.
He bought an ultimate orb, so it's go time,
Is
boys.
TP
He
into
sees
the,
it, man.
It's go time, boys.
He has to see it. It's pinged out.
dipping out?
No, he's not gonna go.
Mason was like escorting the courier home.
Well, they don't know about that. Right. Yeah.
Well, EG are definitely struggling to find their footing here. You can just see by the net worth as well. Alliance are definitely pulling ahead. Even during the early game, they had around a 2,000 to 3,000 gold advantage, even though, sure, they got 2 kills on RTZ, but not much else than that happens. Alliance defended all their tier 1s, EG lost all their tier 1s, and I'm fairly certain that's where most of the advantage is coming right now from Alliance. But losing your tier 1s as EG is so hard, because it makes the Tinker's job harder.
Yeah.
Oh, they're lagging. Okay.
I was just gonna say that as well, especially the fact that you don't gain the tier 1, it really limits where Tinker could farm. Normally you say, I'm gonna butcher travel in this lane, farm like 2 to 3 wave if you're really greedy, maybe even duck into jungle and farm that too. But here with all the T1s up, we saw RTZ trying to farm the enemy jungle, he just got picked off, so.
Also, they warded out all the other camps as well,
Yeah.
which we talked about earlier.
It's a very kind of slow, but it's definitely a choke coming out from Alliance.
And Loda is going for that refresher orb, by the looks of it. Or maybe an orchid. Could be an orchid as well.
No, it's probably a refresher.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
I think Refresher would just be soul crushing for EG to deal with. I don't think they could ever fight.
No.
Like, what do you do against not being able to cast a spell for...
And then after that, not actually being able to cast a spell because you have no mana.
I guess I could have just stopped it.
Yeah,
You wouldn't actually be able to cast a spell. You just can't. That is going to be
Radiant's
absolute
top
terror.
tower
And not
is
to
under
mention,
attack.
unlike most heroes who go like Aghanim's Refresher, Silencer benefits from pretty much all of the stats of the Aghanims too. Like getting tankier from the Aghanims is something that most Silencers don't get until very, very late into the game. And then just getting bonus damage, mana regen, stuff like that from the Refresher. It's also nice.
Don't forget about the attack speed.
That attack speed. Dude, that agility gain. He's got 55 agility at level 14.
I think he'd rather to be at 2,000 health, I'm just saying.
Well, would he actually be at 2,000 health if he had 3 strength gain? Because his strength gain right
Radiant's
now is
bottom
2.2.
tower is under
No, he
attack.
wouldn't.
All right, so let's suppose that he has 55 plus 13 strength instead of agility. Quick math here, right? That's
Multiply it by
68
19.
strength times 20.
19.
19, yeah.
Well, then do you subtract another 68 for that 19?
Radiant's bottom tower is
Would
under
go.
attack.
I don't know what's going on. I'm lost.
I lost myself.
I'm not
And then you
mad.
add the, yeah, okay.
Oh, in the woods side. Looks like he's going to get caught out here. Teleport coming in from Bulldog. They're going to find the snipe.
And the birds. At least one.
Ah, they'll get the other one. I believe.
Just waiting.
Die, bird, die. Oh, the vision from the sprout.
There you go.
Beautiful.
And the beauty of that is they didn't expend any of their ultimates, so if they want to ram down that tier 2, it's essentially free.
Radiant's
I really think the
bottom
only
tower
way they
is
could
under
really get
attack.
fights going is look at what Universe is doing. He's buying BKBs. It's not exactly a standard item choice, but
he has to.
it's a necessity this game.
But the problem here is when Loda refreshes, you're not going to be able to use a
Dire's
BKB
top
again.
tower is
And you're still
under
going to be
attack.
silenced.
Yeah, I mean, you just, that's definitely true, but for example, if you're Loda, right, you pop your 7-second of global, Universe pops a BKB, do you immediately refresh and say, I'm going to just counter this one hero?
I think it depends on how the fight's going.
Radiant's
Yeah,
middle
I think so
tower
as well.
is
Like if
under
walls
attack.
already dropped, I don't think you would, like under any circumstance. But if the wall's down and you're maybe going high ground or something like that, I think it might be worth it because a wall vacuum is so devastating in enclosed spaces that it could just stop a push. That's kind of the power that Universe has for his team. Like you talk about March or Martizi, of course that's going to be there, but getting vacuum wall can be bad. PPD barely TPs away here in the woods. Very close call.
I think Alliance, despite how well they're playing so far, I mean, the gold chart lead is definitely in their favor, 10,000 gold advantage, 5 kill advantage. I think they should finish the game soon. The one downside of forcing EG to buy BKB is essentially that's 4K that's not really going into damage or lengthening your team fight by having better stun or whatever the case is. But if you give EG the time to farm that BKB and you don't punish them for it, then here we go, Overgrowth on the top side is going to be dead again. Those birds are freshly summoned, so if he dies, he's not going to have bird for a long while. In fact, he will, that global's going to get used, and Mason, well, he's not leaping out there, and here comes Admiral Bulldog. He's got the blink as well. And and that's 2 kills. They have the Brewmaster ult in reserve. They see Universe on the mid lane, but this is a much difficult target to get a kill on because he does have that BKB.
And Blink Hex is nearly up on Admiral Bulldog as well.
Cyclone, they got him in the air. That's
about.
6 seconds of a disable, so everybody is getting close.
He still has BKB and TP though.
I mean, you can sprout him.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, you can't stop that one, actually.
No, you cannot stop that one.
Still, though, 10-second BKB charge. That's value right there.
You just push right now, right? 2 people dead. Yeah, they're going to be back alive.
Well,
Radiant's
alive.
bottom tower
There's no burst, so there's that. 10-second BKB has, what, a 75-second cooldown? Something
RTZ
ridiculous.
is going BKB as well.
Yeah, they have to. I reckon Mason's going to go BKB after this as well.
The problem is, buying all these BKBs, I think it's going to be a lot harder for their team to actually fight because they've spent so much money on items that are just to make it through a fight. Like, you're spending 4,000 gold just to be able to use your skills.
My point exactly, if you fight right now, sure, the BKBs like weighing you down because that's 4K into not really a lot of damage. But if you fight 30 minutes from now,
79-minute game.
But then your BKBs are already at 5.
sure, still, but you still have the magical immunity. My point is, Alliance, despite how well they're doing right now, they need to do more. And I'm talking about high ground.
But if I'm EG and I look at Alliance lineup,
EGM, caught out. Telekinesis going to be used. He living armor himself, but he is so dead.
He's got the gem, man.
that's a huge loss.
Do they see it?
Okay, they
Oh,
did.
he
No,
picked it up.
S4 takes it.
You snooze, you lose.
Wow.
I think they're dead here, right? Ensnare? No BKB. They're stomped once. The second stomp, Centaur's dead. Okay. They could have gotten a little bit more out of that, I think.
Oh my god.
Well, I don't think Bulldog was able to get there. Yeah, he just teleported to finish his scythe, so he definitely couldn't have helped there.
And
I can't believe they left it there.
is
EG
down,
or
so.
even just going to retreat, just pop Moonlight Shadow and say, yeah, we're out of here. No interest in fighting this anymore.
Okay, yeah, so if you're EG and you look at Alliance's lineup and you have BKBs, what damage do they do? They have Nature's Prophet, who does a little bit of right damage, right-click damage, and Silencer doesn't do that much without her glaive.
That was Glaives, yeah.
So I'm thinking it's actually pretty good.
But the thing is, Alliance can just run from
Bottom
the
lane,
fight
it's
at
going
the
to be a
same
hex
time.
from Arteezy. Global's going to be expended for this.
It's definitely worth it. That is so worth it.
Yeah.
Like, getting Arteezy off the map, putting him even farther away from his BKB. I mean, he's still kind of close right now, but that death actually really sucks when you're that close to finishing an item that makes your character not die to that.
I think Alliance is looking for the high ground.
So
Tier 2 right
Loda
now.
refreshed, so he can immediately go high ground.
Yeah, they still have another global because Refresher is done. Brewmaster ult is back online. You just go for tier 2 and tier 3 now, right?
Yeah, and I don't think that Arteezy will buy back for
And
tier 2.
PPD's dead.
Oh, no.
These deep wards from Alliance are
Dire's
just
middle
really
tower
making it work.
is under attack.
Oh, there you go. It took a while, but
Radiant's top tower is under
I think
attack.
James said he was kind of curious
Dire's
as to what
middle
form
tower
Alliance we're
has
going to be in.
fallen.
form.
I think we got a pretty good indicator right now of how good they're playing.
It's a
Radiant
kind of
structures are
strange
fortified.
draft though. It's not
Dire's
normal in
middle
any way.
tower
I don't
is
think.
under
Like
attack.
Silencer carry with a 3 and 4.
Radiant's bottom tower
Blink
is
away
under
from that
attack.
arrow, and here comes that counter push of March Machine, but I think Alliance will stick to this. The Blink Dagger is not going to be too effective under the mark, but keep in mind they still have the
Radiant's top
global,
tower
they still have the
is
Brewmaster split, and Universe essentially have to charge himself with a surge, BKB and wall. We'll see the pipe coming out now, and it's really forcing Universe to panic.
Radiant's
My
top
art is
tower is
vibrating.
under attack.
Well, Arteezy is finally alive, so he'll be able to start throwing out a couple of marches to stop this, but I think the range track still might just go down here.
But the global is going to stop everything, Overgrowth and a mech, and the Brewmaster ultimate is just panicking EG, and it's EG. They're not doing too much of damage at all. I say that. The birds are actually doing a lot. Ake's dropping low. Where's the heal? There's no heal. Ake's going to be dead. It seems like EG will repel the push PPD down to half HP, but the rest of Evil Geniuses is giving chase. The ultimate is ending quite soon for Alliance, and that is a successful defense.
It was
What
successful, but... Okay, so when you try to stop a Darkseer initiation, a lot of Darkseers will vacuum prior to dropping the wall and then just wall right after that. It's really hard to catch it in between. If you can manage to do it preemptively because you know it's going in, then you can prevent the combo entirely. But what ended up happening is they get like 4-man vacuumed into a wall.
And then they global.
Yeah, and then they global.
Radiant's
So
middle
sure,
tower
it
is
stops
under
maybe like a
attack.
Starstorm. They were able to throw Arteezy up in the air, so there are no more marches after the initial one that they still took damage from. But they still lose a hero from it no matter what. Like, you can't get 4-man vacuum walled and expect to walk away.
They also use the Centaur clap, or when the Yules from the Panda was just used, like a bit of miscommunication there.
Yeah.
But I think they lose a lot, right?
Roshan has
Alliance loses to
fallen to the
Roshan
death.
to Evil Geniuses, so that's going to make the next defense a little bit easier. The ultimates has been spent on Alliance, so no more pushing for at least, you know, what, 37? Well, actually, the cooldowns of this Brewmaster ultimate is back up, and they do have another global in about 40 seconds, and refresher on top of that, so I thought Alliance would be a little bit more concerned about that, but I guess not. They still have every tool available to keep going.
See, the one thing that AG are going to struggle with now is that your glyph is down, and if Alliance really want to, they can just global, refresh global to just hit your racks. And what do? What do you actually do about that?
I mean, you BKB and you run in with Arxir, right? Same plan.
So the only problem is that no one will be able to follow up the Darkseer. I mean, he's the only one on his team who can actually just say, yeah, I'll just BKB right now. Sure, RTZ has the money to buy one, but I think he actually needs to save a little bit more for buyback. He should be able to do it now.
Yeah.
I think he can finish his BKB and still have buyout, and there we go.
Bulldog's getting really close to fire. No Sprout just yet. Oh, there's an Overgrowth being spent, and they can Sprout right after. Here comes a Global, and the birds can't stun. BKB is going to be expended from Universe, but you trade a oh. Why did he be out? You'll trade a BKB from Darkseer for a Global, or would you not? Because here comes that push.
But now he can't defend the push. He was the only one that defended the last time.
Yeah.
BKB, and now they can't.
Well, it's up to Dota to actually refresh and use that.
Refresh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's
there
a
it is.
global hit the racks, Andy, you called it.
I mean, this is the problem, is like, what do they do about this? PPD's just walking around like,
Square
yeah,
off.
he can't cast. They're just going to send Loda home, he's fine.
Dyer's middle barracks has fallen.
So, yeah, in a nutshell, even though they didn't kill Universe, it, like Shane said, it stopped him completely from being able to do anything in that fight. And the Darkseer is their high ground defense. March doesn't bother Alliance at all. They have a pipe, they have a Chen, and a mech in tree armor. March me, bro. It doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm really impressed with how Alliance are playing this, to be honest.
It's really neat. Like, very little mistakes.
Yeah, they're going to try to counter back with the tier 1 push, but Alliance is going for a perfect game, at least in the tower aspect, because they haven't lost the tier 1 tower yet. It helps when you have a tree in. But they've really been on top of the ball in terms of always sending 1 or 2 heroes to stop the push, always pick off people that are trying to do what like RTZ is trying to do. And here comes that Brewmaster ultimate. I heard.
Radiant's bottom
No, he was
tower
just clapping.
is
He's
under
just
attack.
lifting the weights.
Every time he hey ya, I just think he's doing it all.
He's a bit in his cups at the moment. That's the thing. Somebody in the house didn't understand that saying. I don't remember who it was. Like when somebody said burger cups, they're just like thinking and, you know,
Radiant's
having a drink,
bottom tower
right?
has fallen.
Your movie references are spent on me.
Does Bulldog go for Necrobook? He has like, what did he buy?
I think he might just buy Mjolnir at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, it looks like he did, yeah.
Yeah. Mjolnir is just such a good item.
Against damage over time effects, like
Yeah.
March, Ion Shell.
The
Visage
other thing
Spirits.
is too, if you're EG, right now, trying to focus anybody on Alliance is so difficult to do. It's so hard. Because Bulldog is still quite tanky, like 1600 HP. Loda's got 2100 HP, also making a Hex right now. You have Mech Pipe on Ake and Hand of God, Tree Armor. There's no good targets.
Yeah.
I really think that EG, it sounds funny to say this, but I think they were the team who had to do more. I don't know. I don't know how you're supposed to fight into this kind of, this style at this stage in the game.
Well, they definitely have the capability to do more now because triple BKB is up on the core. It's,
And they still have Aegis on Morana.
right, it looks very ugly to have BKB on your Tinker, Piranha, and Darkseer. This is what they had to do, and it's bought. How much are they going to do with it right now? It's smoke up. They could even use a Moonlight Shadow if they want. And I think they want to go straight into Alliance. Keep in mind that when you pop your BKB, Alliance has zilch for damage. Minus Nature's Prophet, I suppose.
Who does a good bit now?
Yeah, he does right click quite hard.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing in EG's arsenal is basically RTZ expanding March and Universe just trying to drop a good vacuum wall.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, Mason chips away, I guess. The birds are not irrelevant.
But you talked about PvD and his impact in the game. If he gets a good steal here, do you think they have a chance?
Here we go. We're gonna see initiation coming from BB Global. It's gonna come down. Oh my god, the damn jumper from that curse. Where's the
wall's gonna get dropped. Here comes the overgrowth as well, and there is no damage. Nobody's signed just yet. Mason's right clicking away in the front line. He does have the Aegis. He's going for the kill. Aegis is dismended, and they are just stalling EG out. The BKB weren't enough, and all those BKBs on cooldown. Mason is gonna die a second time as well. He tries to leave away the Blink Dagger from Admiral Bulldog, and everybody is dead from Evil Geniuses. And we might see a second Rax coming out right now from Alliance.
I think that might just be GG.
It looks like.
Like, you just smoke initiated with an Aegis and lost the fight horribly, and now you're going to lose potentially another set of racks.
That instant hex from Admiral Bulldog was huge in that fight.
Yeah, PPD was even surged, and he's like, that pig was get me the hell out of here, and it didn't really work out. To be honest, I don't really know what EG could have done after the reflection was done on the silencer.
Did you see that 4,000
Yeah.
onto a stomp?
Okay.
But we saw a wall dropped, and what happens when the wall doesn't hit anybody? It
Yeah.
basically means
Dire's
that the
bottom
fight is
tower is
auto
under
lost.
attack.
No, it hit like 4 or 3 people.
Did it?
Yeah. And then Overgrowth was on top of it straight away.
Oh,
from
okay,
EGM.
so there's no one took damage.
Also, because a Wrath as well as a Shiva was going off, those illusions kind of just die very quickly. I think the problem with that fight for EG is their way of initiation was charging a PPD into it, which that's very easy for alliances. Yeah, I'm going to press global, and that's how we start the fight. And suddenly you have your Rubik in the front line just dying.
Well, I think they wanted to bait the global and then try to disengage, because that way, if PPD dies and the global's down, I think it's still worth it, because then you only have one global to worry about, which means BKBs actually help.
That's fair.
But if you let the refresher global get up, then the BKBs mean nothing.
Yep.
So I think what they were trying to do is really smart. It just didn't work out.
Okay.
That's where I thought Yules on RTZ would have been cool as well.
Well, he kind of needs both, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he's going Hex now, which I definitely think is also necessary. It's just there's too many items that he needs.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, playing against Silencer, at least in a carry role, makes it so you have to completely change how you would normally build. Which really sucks, actually, for Tinker, because his build is so set in stone. And when you don't go for items that give you any sort of mana regeneration, you have to go BKB, it means you're spending more time in base because your base mana pool is smaller. Oh.
He's going to get hexed, and there you go. Before he casts the Surge, now keep in mind that he does have the BKB. And he's going to try to TP out of there, perhaps. Pops the mech. I mean, Easy Sprout's going to keep him and give him sight, but Robo's second hex going to come through. And those BKBs are, well, they're wearing down into time.
The BKB just ran out. He must have been looking at the status bar on the hero.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if you're magically immune, you cannot cast Surge on yourself, right?
No,
That's
you
why you're
can't.
just walking at regular movement speed. Very easy right-click target for Alliance.
Really impressive stuff, I gotta say. It's been a while since I've seen Alliance play, but they are showing some pretty darn good Dota.
And that goes back to what PPD said earlier when I was talking to him. It's a best of one. You know, we don't know exactly what Alliance has been playing. It's not just a draft, though. They're playing really solid. Have they made any mistakes, you want to say, Andy?
Well, I
Aside
think
from 2 deaths, I guess.
obviously if people die, there is a mistake. But I don't think there's been anything noticeable where it's like, okay, this is definitely something that you can exploit. I just think that the way they play their draft against EG's style worked phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so hard for them to deal.
The early aggressive wards in their jungle and on the ancients actually shut down the thing quite well. He did go for master.
I would also say that maybe EG could have been a little bit more active during the early game, but maybe they were just a bit too confident in what RTZ's Tinker could actually do. I mean, he's had to go Manta BKB Tinker. He has 800 mana, or 900 mana. He actually can't skill his third point into rearm.
He can barely actually use Manta spell because it costs 165 mana.
Okay, keep in mind that Soul Ring does give you a lot more.
Yeah,
because you can keep activating Soul Ring. So essentially the rearm is free. And look, Manta gives stats, man.
But also costs 165 mana.
That's definitely true.
The thing is, if you go Hex instead, like if he spent, what, 9,000 gold on a Hex and a Dagon, he'd have almost twice the mana pool right now.
Sure. But he also will not be able to use that mana pool.
No, but I'm saying the difference between having a hero who instead has to spend twice or 3 times as much time teleporting back to base instead of consistently pushing when you're already down a Rax, that hurts so bad.
The comeback's not real.
The comeback is not real, though.
Well, if the comeback does happen, it's going to have to go a longer time.
If you're EG, this is your fight though, in the Roach pit. You have the wall, the marches.
That's true.
I think there's actually just so few heroes in the game whose play is extremely inhibited by having to buy items like RTZ's had to buy this game.
Yeah.
just because he's such a mobility-based hero.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely had it rough. The 2 deaths in the beginning of the game certainly didn't do him any favors either. Alliance are going to get themselves a totally uncontested Roshan. Continue to look really solid throughout the first game here at DreamHack.
So now that with Silencer having a Hex as well as an Aegis, you just have him in the front line and start hitting that tier 3, right? Slow season.
Yeah. Pop that global, just go ham.
Yeah.
Just hit the buildings.
Click and walk away. Yeah.
Well, this time they have Glyph available? No, they don't. Yeah, pop that global, hit the tower.
I'm saying, man, that's a legit strategy, especially when you have a lineup like this, when you have 2 Dark Troll Warlords, you've got Prophet Trees, Centaur Aura for attack speed.
Oh, sacrifice.
The global, they hit the towers.
Dire's bottom tower has fallen.
You can just refresh and do it again in all racks. Like,
did Loda actually use a spell after he global?
Yes, he did.
oh, here we go. Refresher's used.
Yeah, BKB's gonna have it from Rambo Bulldog. Here comes the global 2-man Sprout on top of that. There's a 4-sap. Overgrowth already spent, but there's a 3-man vacuum. There's just no damage though. And Mason trying to right click with his BKB. He's getting killed by Moda, who doesn't even have the blade damage. The cleanup from Alliance, and they're gonna just take down the last 2 racks and force a GG from Evil Geniuses. They're buying back though. They're gonna give it one last fight.
Well, they're trying to do whatever they can, but Universe might be able to find Ake here chasing outside of the base. I mean, that's about it. Well, questionable sprout there from Bulldog. Arteezy comes in.
Oh my god, he's
some
still
rocket
alive.
artillery. He got ninjas. He's fine.
Yeah, he's got pipe back up, so he's gonna be okay as well.
Wow, he
Did
didn't
he get
actually.
nothing? No kills?
He didn't actually die. That is so depressing.
Oh.
Okay, meanwhile on the other side,
Bulldog still like Hex.
yeah, he's hexing Fear, but or Arteezy.
The blade
blinks
Dire's
away.
middle tower has fallen.
I think he can still get Arteezy doesn't
no
have
mana.
mana. He doesn't have. He can blink forward. Body blocks. Can Mason go for the arrow here? It's off cooldown. Everyone Bulldog decides to turn. There's a great kill into the arrow. It should be a death.
Nice body block from Arteezy.
Parrot Phase Green, maybe?
Dude, there is some hardcore EG fan in the audience. As soon as that kill came out, somebody
Okay.
just like went ham.
Look,
That was good.
when Alliance Global to hit a tower, somebody cheer in the crowd. I'm not sure if that was like cheer-worthy.
No, killing a tower is legit, man. Especially high ground towers. Do you know how? If you ever played against Tinker in your life,
That's true, that's
do
true.
you
I'll
know
cheer for
what that feeling is like?
cheer for
man?
that.
You get a tower in the high ground, you cheer even for the pub game.
Heard it.
So for me, Alliance, they would have to do some. They would have to not play Dota, I think, for this game.
The Brewmaster has an Abyssal Blade.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah,
You got
just
crit, get
blink-
that damage.
Well, more so you blinking against Universe and he just can't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing is they're just getting everything in the game that says, I don't care about your BKBs, because they actually
Radiant's
waited to
bottom
BKB until
tower
after the
is
second
under
global
attack.
was used, and then they just got overgrowthed anyway. So it was like, okay, this is really a crap game for BKBs, even though we need BKBs.
Okay, Zaya also just bought a...
Radiant's bottom tower is under
Armlet?
attack.
Armlet, yep.
and he sold it. I think it was a misclick.
I just want to say that this is probably the most I hate BKB lineup that I've ever seen
Radiant's
before.
bottom
Yeah.
tower is under
It's a
attack.
lineup where that if you don't have a BKB, you're useless, and then if you buy a BKB, you're still useless.
Well, because you spent 4,000 into the BKB.
Right, but I think it's just more than anything else. Like, we can talk the BKBs to death, but more importantly, it's the early game and what EG, I think, kind of had to accomplish, especially when they started moving on Loda. They realized that they're like, look, we need to kill him. Because if we let him get unobstructed farm and get to that point where he goes to pressure eggs, we just won't be able to ever stop him.
Radiant's bottom
Arteezy was
tower
like
is under
400, 300
attack.
gold away from the Boots of Travel, and they actually smoke ganked them with Aki as well.
Yeah.
They did that twice.
The movement from Alliance, I think, was just overall a bit better. And with the Rubik, there just wasn't enough kill potential on their supports. Normally, you have another hero with a Rubik, like a Gyrocopter or something, who just has such high individual damage that you can warrant picking the Rubik if they're the only two moving around the map.
Yeah.
But because Zai wasn't level 6 when they first ganked, they just walked up to Loda and gave him a little tickle, and
he
then he
walked
was
away.
able to walk it off. So, in the end, maybe EG just maybe too greedy for their own shoes, man. Who knows?
Also, seeing this push might happen for a while, as you know, the marching machine is hard to go through. Kind of an interesting food for thought question for you guys.
Can you diffuse Silencer LD, yeah?
You can
That
dispel
exactly
silences.
was my question.
I'm pretty sure you can dispel silences.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. That wasn't my question. I want to look at Brewmaster.
And there's no axe here, which normally you say blink axe, that's the build. And there's arguments saying, okay, if you don't go axe first, like if you want to go hex or Shiva, you still go back for the axe.
Dude, everyone on their
Dire's
team has a
bottom
BKB.
barracks are
You don't need
under
an
attack.
axe.
Okay, that's your argument for that.
Yeah, because if you're buying an Agadins, you're getting the extra damage from the clap on the Earth Spirit, right? The blind is also really nice for stopping carry's damage output, but all the cores on EG have BKBs. So the split is irrelevant. They actually don't need the Brewmaster split. I think the way
I don't
they
think
pick
they
the
want to
lineup,
split much.
but think about this, right? They have a hero who needs a ton of farm. They're going to find Mason middle here. Could very well just be the GG coming out. The refresh is going to be used by Lota. Pops another global silence. RTZ is going to BKB and rearm himself. They want to continue to try to chase this.
Dire's
Alliance
bottom
actually not getting
barracks
too
are
much in
under
terms of the
attack.
base, but it doesn't really seem to matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
RTZ couldn't get a
Dire's
match
bottom
march
barracks
off in
has
that team
fallen.
fight, and without the march, they actually just don't have enough
They
damage.
did end up killing the bottom melee racks though, so that's nice.
Yeah. Bulldog.
Bulldog the rat, living in the sewer.
He was constantly sending little treants in just to nibble away at it.
Yeah. But if you think about the synergy of Alliance's draft, they had a hero who is so hard to fight into in the very early game, like Brew, okay? Brew doesn't need farm. I mean, he needs one item, and that's a Blink Dagger, pretty much, and then you're good for the game. If you know that your Silencer is going to be able to
Dire's
carry
top
no
tower
matter
is
what,
under
if you get to a
attack.
certain stage, then you don't need the
Radiant's middle
Brewmaster
tower
to
is
do
under
anything
attack.
but be a threat to the other team. So I think in a way that Alliance had drafted like an insanely
Dire's
good
top
lineup.
tower is
It
under
took
attack.
watching the game to realize it, and we're going to see a fight all here. Getting the last fight. Overgrowth on all four. Universe is going to get force staffed away, but unfortunately PPD not so lucky. Mason just getting chunked by the Glaives of Wisdom. Blink away from Arteezy after the Manta. Throws out a defensive march, and looks like that'll be the end of that engagement with some burst stunts as well coming out from Zai.
Chase here, Zai running away, and that was the fight to get down. Oh, Surge is gonna come forward, and Ammo Bulldog is just going to work Mason. He's gonna get dropped one more hit, and they will get the last hit. Arteezy's gonna die as well. GG comes out, and Alliance will take game one.
Really, really impressive performance all around.
Alliance victory.
Yeah.
I would say that the draft for me, I was looking at Alliance EG, and it's really hard to say sometimes how things are actually going to play out. But James said it. James said it, yeah. So James mentioned it this morning. He said, pick silence.